Not on my team. Actually, the same coach was last He's kind of funny too.
This is funny.
No matter where the ball is. I have, right? I have like 3 and 4-year-old. I have 3 of them.
He has a thing where he's just kind of friends and
She had a library. I'm not sure something like that, but she was going to come back and let her school and stop talking to her, so she so at least from what it sounds like she told.
There's some real weirdness going on. Why would you go to 30 and say shares when you can graduate and go to he's a go ahead and sign it and register district should pay us for coming in. And then once a year, all this and
Okay, it's 6:30, so we're going to call this meeting to order. Will you please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Welcome to the Union City Community School Board meeting. Our meeting agenda is available for you to follow. The expectation for our board meeting is to follow this agenda closely. We operate under the Open Meetings Act and utilize Robert's Rules of Order to govern our discussion and decision-making process. There is an opportunity for public comment during our set agenda. We welcome the public to express their opinions during this time of our agenda. If there are questions about the agenda or the board meeting process, please seek out one of the board members for clarification. Do we have any addition or deletion of items to the agenda? No? All right. We'll move on to the consent agenda. I would take a motion to accept the consent agenda as presented.
Move to approve. Support.
Any discussion?
I'm glad to see that, even though she wasn't here long, that this wages, as far as her experience, has given her the confidence to go and reach that next level. So it's kind of a bummer that that's how that worked. That, you know, obviously we're going to be out, but one sub, but at the same time, we can't really be too angry when somebody's going to reach a little bit further for their potential career. So.
Absolutely. And then will we be posting for her replacement?
Our plan right now is to start all with just having 2 full-time subs and then kind of see how things go in terms of our need for substitutes. Of course, a lot of that will depend on COVID and other factors.
Okay, sounds good. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the same. Motion is carried. Correspondence. Do we have any correspondence this month?
Do not.
All right. We move on now to public comments. This is a section of the meeting in which the public may make comments or share their opinions about the agenda items. We ask you to limit your comments to no longer than 5 minutes per person to allow others the opportunity to speak. This is an opportunity for the board to listen to your concerns. It is not board practice to act on the concerns voiced during this meeting to allow for the board to do further research. Do you have any public comments this evening?
Good evening. As always, I'd like to thank you for the time you put in. And I just wanted to add a quick note. You get the pleasure of voting on the UCDA contract tonight. And I wanted to say that I think I started negotiating 22 or 23 years ago. And this was one of the best ever negotiations we've ever had. Not that we got everything, because we sure didn't. It was just smoothest, and it was a process of here's our problems that we went in. Mr. Gass was fantastic to work with, and I'm always coming back to something that was a solution to what we saw as a problem, and he brought some things to us, and it was just a fantastic process of sitting down and working through those processes, and everybody involved was extremely happy that it went through. It was great. Thank you.
Thank you. Do you have any other public comment this evening? Seeing none, we'll move on to action items. Our financials. Board action is required to approve the financials for the month ending April 30th, 2022. And I would entertain a motion for the same.
I'll make that motion.
Support.
Discussion? Let Aaron get set up here.
I've gone through it like I normally would like to, but I'm going to see if there was any issue with our attention. No further discussion. Thank you.
All right. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the same, and the motion carries. We move on to retirement. Board action is required to accept the retirement of Ann Swain, elementary teacher. Ann has taught at the elementary for 24 years, and I would entertain a motion for that.
So moved.
Support.
Any discussion?
Obviously, thank you.
Yeah.
Jen would say something more eloquent than I can.
She would. You should.
She would say something, what if we don't approve this?
Right.
Yeah, that's true.
But yeah, no, obviously a big thank you. Anybody who teaches in for 24 plus, 25 plus years has seen a lot of things, and so it's a wonderful thing that she gets a chance to now do what she wants to do in retirement. But it's also a kind of a bummer when you lose somebody with that much experience. So.
Amen.
Well said.
All right, any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the same, and the motion is carried. Next is another retirement. Board action is required to accept the retirement of Carolyn Hicks. Carrie has been a paraprofessional at Union City Elementary for 28 years. I would entertain a motion for the same.
So moved.
Support.
Ooh, I think you got Georgie. All right, any discussion?
Instead of thanking me again,
I can say something. She was a student of mine at one time, and it's always makes me feel old to see a student retire from Union City, but she's a fine young lady, and again, I would do the same thing you would do. Wish her a great retirement years.
And in her particular position too, it's not necessarily being in a classroom as a teacher. It's also one of those where it's a big thank you because of the everything you do in that particular position is kind of thankless, and it's the support staff and everything is really a big deal. So it's always hard to lose again somebody who has so much experience and support and everything like that. So is that my microphone?
Was me?
I hope so. I'm done.
Any other discussion?
Sorry, I wasn't just speaking.
Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the same, and the motion carries. We'll move on to the 2022-2023 CISD budget resolution. Board action is required to approve the CISD budget proposal as presented. I would entertain a motion for the same.
Move to approve the CISD budget proposal.
You got my second.
Any discussion?
No, okay.
This is a resolution, is that correct? All right. So Kelly, go ahead and call the roll.
Miller,
Yes.
LeVar,
Yes.
Mathis,
Yes.
Mears,
Yes.
Sherman.
Yes. Next, we move on to the UCEA MEA contract. Board action is required to approve the renewal and changes in the UCEA MEA contract as presented. I would entertain a motion for the same.
Move to approve?
Support.
Any discussion?
Just, it's locked into 2025 except for
Except for wages, steps, anything related to salary and the insurance.
just want to confirm that. And thank you for making it easy for the process. It's never fun to negotiate, but I appreciate the fact that it went smooth this time.
That sounded great to hear that, so thank you to all parties. Any other discussion?
If you like our staff, we want to take care of them, just gotta make wise decisions, try to negotiate. So thank you to all involved.
Absolutely. All right, if there's no other discussion, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the same, and that motion carries. We move on now to discussion items, and our first up is Neola. This is the first reading of volume 36, number 2 of Neola policies, guidelines, and bylaws.
You have the policies that are up for review this time for our first reading. I mentioned that they have to do with staff dress and grooming, student dress and grooming, et cetera. They added dress and grooming to areas that didn't happen before. And there is one option that is not selected that the board may choose to either select or not, depending on your wishes.
Is there any other discussion that needs to take place at this time?
Well, we're not voting on it this month,
That's
so I
correct.
need to spend some more time looking at it.
Me too.
All right, construction projects update, and how's that coming?
Things are moving along, always more slowly than I hope. You saw it in the packet. There is the pre-bid advertisement went out. Bids are due, or will be due, on the bleacher project on June 1st. Once we get the bids back, then there will be time to go through them and maybe do some negotiation with some of the bidders, make some decisions on things that we are going to move forward on, or maybe if we're going to make some cuts, we'll do it at that time. I asked Mike if he thought we needed to schedule a special meeting to vote on that. Right now, he doesn't think we will. He's saying that our regular June meeting should follow the right timeline. However, it's possible we might want to have 1 week earlier, just to help somebody get started. If that happens, I'll be sure to let all of you know as soon as I know, if we want to try to move it up at all. But so things are progressing along that front.
And he still thinks that project will be finished by our first home day?
They still believe that, yes. And I've already told Haley the plan to reach out to our first home game is a JV home game. And I've told her, reach out to the school just so they know we might need to play the JV game on their site for that first one. That would put our first varsity game is, I believe, after September 1st. So that would give us a little more time if necessary. But he says that their bid documents and everything are that the project is to be completed by August 20th. Ready to utilize. There might be some finishing that needs to be done in September, which he characterizes maybe a few handrails here and there, things like that. But he still says that, and I said, well, that has to happen, or else we're not moving forward on it. So they're well aware of that. So at this point, they have been making contact with a number of companies regularly to have them be prepared and ready to bid. So it's not like this is going to hit people out of the blue. They have people that they've been communicating with that know this project's coming, they know the scope of the project and those types of things. And apparently they're ready or preparing to be ready to bid on it once it's posted. And at the same time, things are going through getting approval on the plans, which has to be done before they can begin, and that's a process that's underway. So, but it is moving along. As far as the other construction projects that have to do with our buildings and the ESSER funds, as well as the sinking fund, other sinking fund projects, we have the architect coming week, Tuesday, 24th, to look at our science areas, to look at what we want to do there, meet with our science teachers, talk to them, talk with Patrick and myself, and also to look at our entries to our buildings, to look at the vestibules for those areas that we received the grant to pay for the secure vestibule construction. So they're going to begin working on drawings for those areas, and they are looking at bidding out the construction projects, or the boilers for the work to be done in September and October of boilers, and to begin work on the piping in this building, as well as the other ventilation things, after the beginning of the school year. And they are of the opinion that we will get better pricing by bidding it out at that time, because this time of year, a lot of jobs out in the summer, and of course they understand we have to be functioning, and school will be open during the daytime, and they're well aware of that. And they know companies that they've talked to who are anxious for jobs to bid on during the school year that they can do the work on. So that's the plan at this point in time for those.
I know they were going after the aluminum bleacher seats, or have you heard any update from that?
I haven't heard specifically on those, but he has told me that he believes that those will be in place ready in time for when we open, yes.
Is it just think ahead in case the weather's not good or something takes place? Is there alternatives for that first varsity game in September? We just simply use the other team's home field?
There are alternatives, of course, and that would be one of them. I'm really hoping to avoid anything like that, if at all possible. Obviously, we get into the middle of it, and everything's torn up, and something happens that changes, then we have to make adjustments. But we will not go into it with any idea that might possibly happen. We will go into it with every intention to have it done and ready to use. The one thing is, though, as I mentioned in the email I sent to the entire board, is that pricing continues to escalate. And they did another budget estimate based on current pricing And it's coming in the range between 1.5 and 1.7 plus the architect's fees is what they're estimating. But again, they're being conservative in their estimates. They're trying to make sure they're, but it is an issue that we're going to have to deal with. There are areas and places that we can make cuts from that if we need to, if we feel the need to. So.
Are we looking at the need for a building and site committee meeting after those bids come in so that we can look at those things? Or?
Yes, yeah, and I mentioned under one of the information items, I mean, we're going to need a building and site committee meeting
Okay.
to look at a number of things around that. So, yeah, there will be a building and site committee meeting that will be rescheduled after the bids come in.
Sounds good.
We could talk about this all day, but that's a lot of money. Some of the reasons that we would pursue that now versus later is because we think the price is going to go up a lot more in the future, so it makes sense to do it now. Or if we are motivated to do it based on the funding we get that may have end dates associated with it. My understanding is football, with the stadium, is not as well, the stadium, bleachers, etc. Our plan is to use sinking funds for the majority of that.
That's correct.
So then the timeline is not as critical as it would be for ESSER funds.
That is correct, yes.
So it's $1 million question, but what you mentioned about doing the pipes during the school year is logical to me. Are we setting ourselves up for failure to try to push to get this done this year? Would it be wiser to wait based on I know costs are impossible to try to predict, but is there a reason that we should maybe wait until next year to do this so that we get it locked and loaded in January, and then maybe get some better pricing and more assurance of that on time?
That is a very good question, and it's one that I have, believe me, I've thought of over and over many times. A lot of it would depend on whether you believe that pricing will be better. We don't know what's going to happen with the economy. We don't know how that's going to turn. I certainly didn't think we'd be where we are now a year ago. So it's hard to say where we'll be a year from now. I think when we put this out for bid, when we get the bids, that'll be an opportunity at that point where we can look at them, and we may have to make a decision like that. It's very possible we might get them to make a decision that it might be better for us to wait if we don't believe that they can be executed in the time frame specified.
Sorry to interrupt, but if we do wait, do we still keep our retainer fees in terms of if we commit to working with the same company, do we lose we have to pay them, we lose the money we already invested, I guess.
All of the money that we have put into this so far has gone into a product that we will still retain in all the plans, the architecture plans, all of those things are all ours and can still be
wait a
used.
year, it wouldn't.
So as I understand it, there wouldn't be any there. Now, might there be some overlap, things that might have to be repeated because we wait a year? There may be some. And that's something we would have to find out about. If we looked at it and thought, well, maybe we need to do that. Really, it'll come back to how many companies bid on our project. And if we have multiple bids, it's unlikely. That usually will mean that we're going to get a pretty good bid. If we only have one company bid and that seems high, then probably we might want to consider that.
I just want to add one thing to it. Prices are going down. The rate of inflation is going down. But I find it highly unlikely that there won't be any inflation at all by January. I mean, we've got real high inflation now, and the goal will be to lower that rate from going as high as it is now, 7.9 or 8, to maybe 4 or 5%, but the price would be higher. I don't see a likelihood, and we can look at it later, a likelihood unless there's a serious recession or depression And that depression would take 4 quarters, recession would take 2, for the actual price to be, we'd be saving overall money. I mean, that's the way history looks. Thank you.
Not trying to start an argument, but there's a difference between macroeconomics and microeconomics, so there are certain, you're talking macroeconomics, there are certain materials, labor, things that may fluctuate more than those realms than the entire economy of the United States, but yeah, I understand what you're saying.
There's also potential for ADA laws to change. All the requirements a year from now, I mean, worst case scenario, we may have to go through the whole entire process again, possibly to change how many steps we have from one elevation to another, how many bathrooms we have to have. I mean, there's,
Yes, those things do happen sometimes.
I just want,
You're giving me nightmares, you know.
I just want the board and everyone else to know that there is a chance we don't do this, it's a logical thing to do.
Absolutely.
It's definitely important that we need to look at what's best for us financially and, you know, safety and all those other things too. It may come down to some hard decisions.
We have to make wise decisions, not emotional ones.
Correct. All right. Anything else on those topics?
is there any, property management grants that could possibly help with the cost of senior?
None that I'm aware of at this point in time. We do pay attention very closely to grants that may become available that we can apply for. That even I'm not aware of any right now. There has been some talk of the state making available some funds to help schools with school construction. My guess is that will mostly apply toward buildings themselves, not probably athletic fields and complexes. So for this particular area, it's helpful there would be anything.
Okay, we'll move on to our informational items. The first of which is the safety grant. Did I miss something? Oh, I thought you had said that too. I'm so sorry. ESSER 3 fund plan. Sorry about that.
Yeah, this is one of the items, one of my goals that I worked on this year is our plan for our expenditure of ESSER 3 funds. It's in the agenda. I didn't know if you had any feedback on that. Sarah and I, this is something that we have worked on really all year long between ESSER 2 and ESSER 3, but this reflects our expected uses of the ESSER 3 funds, including, it actually includes a little bit more for the middle school project than we anticipate we will need just to be safe there. The estimate that we have going into that project is $990,000, but I added on to that in order to be safe. But you see some of the other items listed that we're using for expenditures for ESSER 3 monies. Of the ESSER 3 monies, 20% has to be spent on specifically on learning loss. In other words, that was to keep districts from spending it all on things like air conditioning, construction. So our breakdown has more than 20% being spent directly in education. Most of the items in there are things that we have talked about here on the board. There are some curriculum things, Playworks curriculum at the elementary that we recently decided to move forward with. If you have any questions about any of those items that are part of our plan, the first 2 pages are a breakdown of each item and the cost. And then the lighter part is the narrative that we had to submit just for our plan to the government back in February. I believe we submitted that. That was approved when it was submitted. So if you have any questions or comments on that.
Good, I thought, it's all things that we needed to address and work on, so. Anything else? Okay, now we can move on to the safety grant.
Yeah, just some information things in your packet is the letter that we received showing that we were awarded the safety grant for $150,000. There were, I believe, $10 million given out, $34 million in requests, and we have $150,000 to spend over the next little over a year on the secure vestibules. I am guessing it will probably cost us a little bit more than that. Obviously, I don't have specific numbers on it. I have the numbers from the Triangle report that were done, which had a total of about $170,000. So I have $20,000 that I'm planning that would have to come out of sinking fund for that. But once we get the drawings and estimates, we'll have a better idea about those things. The second information item is the 15-year facility plan is in your packet as well for you to look over. This is another one of my goal items. It's a breakdown of all of the, what I did was I took all of the items from the Triangle report for basically everything that was seen as a need or a want throughout the entire district. And I broke it down, removed a lot of, had to do a lot of massaging up to get it in the proper format, and kept their estimates for those. Spencer and I reviewed these and categorized them with a number of different categories that are listed there to try to determine our priorities, which things we felt like needed to be dealt with right away over the next 10 years. The sinking fund, items that are being paid for with grants, items that are already done, like for instance the security cameras and the entryways, and items that are ESSER funds and other categories. And so it's all broken down. And then I've also got some estimates on some of the items. Some of the estimates are the contacts I've made. I took advantage of my uncle who owns Excel Paving in Coldwater and asked them to come over and give us kind of to look at all of our asphalt and give me an idea of the age of it, how soon it was going to need to be dealt with, what type of maintenance, regular maintenance we should do on it. And so I've got information included in there in terms of the second document you have, which is sort of an annual breakdown of what expenditures we're going to do each year over the 10 years out of sinking fund and what the balance of the sinking fund does. So decisions have been made based on, that are in there, are based on what the board has already decided to do in terms of the bleachers and the projects that we have agreed to pursue in relation to the buildings themselves with the ventilation, the HVAC in the high school and middle school, as well as the science classrooms. It leaves a balance after 10 years of around a little over $2 million in the sinking fund. So obviously that's money that can be put toward other needs that are not included in the plan. So that's an evaluation that we can begin to look at now, or the board might decide that we need to wait and see how those things develop, which things become more urgent as they come up. But I put this in for all of you to have a copy of it. but the building and site committee specifically, and the reason I put it as information was rather than talk about it tonight, I wanted to get it to you, but then have a meeting with the building and site committee to go through specifically all the items and get feedback and make adjustments to it, and then bring it back to the board next month to discuss it.
Obviously, it took a lot of work, and I think it's well organized. It's also a lot to chew on. You did mention briefly how much we had left in single fund after all this was done. I didn't see that on the file.
That's
that part.
There's a running total for each year in the second document, which lists the different 10 years. So at the end of the 10th year, you can see the total of single fund monies left.
Right.
At the bottom.
On the second document.
Okay.
Now I'm picking up what you're laying down.
Got it.
I thought you were raising that something about what you were talking about on this document.
I might be, but not for that reason.
I was on page 6 of 6, and it's on nothing like that. Now I'm on page 1 of 3. So
There you go. Yes, that's the annual breakdown. So that document that's 3 pages basically says, okay, out of what we've decided to do where are those things going to be done, and what is our cash flow going to look like in regard to the sinking fund, and how do we make those things happen? So, for instance, with these projects that we're doing now with the bleachers in our buildings, we will need to borrow in order to be able to then pay for those, and then we will pay that payment back out over, I believe it's 6 years, which is a similar amount that we borrowed the last time we used the sinking fund like that, and similar size payments. I got those numbers from speaking with Sarah. And so then there's a place in there. I was told that our high school parking lots should last for between 5 to 7 years if we do some repairs on them this summer and seal them, that the asphalt is good enough to last 5 to 7 more years.
over there, it's not.
That would be an area that will have to be taken out. And there are, I believe, 20 areas he recommended that would be basically cut out and replaced, and then sealing over it. And I think I have roughly $15,000 in there for this summer to do the work that would have to be done. Then we would go on a plan with the parking lots of every year we would be sealing and repairing each of our buildings, one building each year. It's going to be a 3-year regular rotation. So, but again, we can talk about all that more. And I'll answer your questions now if you want, but the building site committee we want to dig into it too. There'll be a lot more detail.
I was going to say something. He said,
Well,
building a site committee, so I'll just hold my tongue. Well, I was gonna say, hopefully, if we decide to move forward with the stadium, there's not a bunch of damage to the parking lot, what have you, but
yes,
because that would make it not over.
you are correct.
Not to be getting behind here, so.
I don't want to get too emotional, but a document that shows how much we have in sinking fund, how much we're getting each year, and how much we're expecting to pay out. I've never seen anything like that before since I've been on the board, and I love this. So thank you for doing that.
You're welcome.
Because sinking fund is this just nebula of I don't know. I know actually the number is on a document, but I don't see a plan. So having a plan is good. So thank you. All about ins and outs, guys. Counting.
All right, upcoming events. We have on our agendas here when the high school graduation is, the Charger Academy graduation, and end of year celebration. Is there anything specific that we should know about any of these upcoming events?
Amber, is there anything specific they should know?
Everyone knows Fair Road's graduation, correct? The board doesn't wear road often, never
Well,
mind.
some people had them, so they did, and some people never got one, so they don't.
Okay. So Charter Academy, no one will be wearing those at the Charter Academy graduation. But we are super excited, if anyone's able to attend that, we'll just do a head count meeting with all of Thursday to kind of finalize plans for that. We'll change the Charter Academy graduation hat, the yoga studio, which would be really nice. It'll be a more intimate ceremony, we'll be excited graduates.
Is graduation looking to be outside or inside this year?
We'll be inside.
Inside, okay.
Due to the uncertainty about, they may
Oh,
start to do
right,
some destruction.
yes.
I was originally told there would definitely be destruction taking place before then. Now I'm not sure.
I mean, we can send something out and make sure something
If the bids aren't due until the first of June,
Just paint the spot.
That's why I'm not sure.
if the bids aren't due the first of June, that's May 29th, I'm missing, my math isn't adding up.
I agree. And
So they're gonna destroy stuff before we get the bids in?
so, when I was told that that might be possible, I informed Amber that it might be possible that there would be demolition going on. Therefore, she informed the class that the graduation would be held inside. And now that it doesn't look like the bids will be done, we'll be able to make that decision before then. We don't really want to change what's already been decided.
As long as we're not gonna cut stuff up before we decide what we're gonna do.
We are not.
All right. And next for information items is board candidate petition deadline. And that would be 2 6-year terms. Both Jen and Dave's places will be up for election on November 8th. And the deadline to file a petition for these openings will be Tuesday, July 26th, 4 p.m., Branch County Clerk's Office. So anyone that is here or is listening or watching, please consider whether that is something that you would like to do to be part of this board.
Any one of us could explain what it's like to be a member if you have any questions, obviously.
Yes, correct. Thank you. All right, we are now down to our second public comment time. This is a section of the meeting in which the public may make comments or share their opinions about Union City Community Schools. We ask you to limit your comments to no longer than 5 minutes per person to allow others the opportunity to speak. This is an opportunity for the board to listen to your concerns. It is not board practice to act on the concerns voiced during this meeting to allow for the board to do further research. Do you have any public comment for this portion?
Good evening. Don't worry, I'm not planning to do any rapping. Somebody can reference from 6 years or so ago. Plus, I was doing my rapping during the morning announcements, so I can work. A couple weeks ago, it was Teacher Appreciation Week. Staff at the high school, and I believe all 3 schools, was given quite a treat. In the teacher's lounge, there was tons of candy, chocolate, donuts, chips, cupcakes, pop, all kinds of good stuff. I know from previous board meetings, you guys are trying to figure out ways to show appreciation to the staff, such as wall of fake pictures or bricks with names on it or other things. Well, those things are all really, really nice. I gotta say personally, you can never go wrong with junk food. So, I gotta tell you, my classroom right next door to the teacher's lounge, I'm in pole position to get first crack at it, so no complaints there. But, however, Chesty Allen is right next door to me, so if you know Mrs. Allen or if there's some junk food, you gotta get there pretty quick to get some of this. So, I was told the food was a gift from the school board, superintendent, and administrators. So I just give you all, Mr. Katz, school board, Mrs. Case, very helpful, thank you. You guys did great.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right, we'll go into board roundtable. Does anyone have anything for discussion?
I have 2 things. One, I brought up the idea of appreciation, like Scott just said, and Patrick sent me an email, and I didn't get a chance to respond to it, and I apologize about that, but he had some good ideas as well. It's funny, some of the ideas you mentioned are ideas that Archie and the person I talked about at the meeting, but I want to continue to pursue that. I've just been very busy as of late. But I want to ask you, Chris, if there's a way that we could get a list of how many teachers would be on that list, and, how many 25ers do we have, how many 30s do we have, how many 20s do we have? Because I want it to be something special, but I don't want it to be so big that it becomes not as big of a milestone, I guess. So, so the question I ask is there a way to determine back for a certain period of time how long teachers have served here or not? And if so, can we get an idea somehow of the quantity at each milestone here? We don't do tonight, obviously. I'd like to see that before we decide what and where we're going to put something.
An easy way to determine those things, there will not be an easy way to do that. The closest or probably the best thing I could come up with, we would go back through yearbooks, is about, but that would really only cover our high school. Maybe whenever we had middle school yearbooks. Other than that, it would require payroll and finance records and things that we don't maybe even have anymore. It depends on we get rid of things based on the timetable that the state allows us to get rid of them. And so I don't know exactly what records we have, so it may not be possible for some areas to go back very far.
Just look into the payroll piece of it and see what information that you have and what that would give us.
I can certainly speak with people that would know and look at the records we have, what we might be able to come up with and what we might be able to.
I was just gonna say, I don't know if the ISD could help with that, or maybe the state of Michigan.
That same thought about the state, they might record.
Not necessarily on queue though.
Yeah, that's true.
That would weed out a lot of them.
I doubt the ISD would have anything related to it, but I know I see Mike's going to put his hand up there. The MBA may have some records.
I don't want people to spend 60 hours over the next month looking at every yearbook and trying to count, each person's face. But if there's a way to do it without a lot of work, I think we should spend a few minutes trying to determine if it's information we can glean or not. From that, we can decide what type of.
I can come back and let you know next month whether or not we think it, or how lengthy a project we think it might be. I can tell you that for just as you prepare it to what we do with the Athletic Hall of Fame, because I know it's one of our biggest problems there is trying to get people from back in the 60s and 50s, even the 70s, because it really depends on the memories of people well. We don't have documents and records and things, and so that's why it hasn't been a struggle at times for that. So I'm pretty sure the same would be the case for this area. Going back much before I was here in the 80s, so I can pretty pull that for you.
High school.
Yeah.
I don't want this to be just a high school thing.
No.
We may have to put it one of the ideas and think we want to eventually do it out there in the courtyard. That's kind of the old school. But I will spend some time with you and others working on what we want to do. I just wanted to get that piece of information first before we. Sure. Secondly, and I'm not prepared, I'm sorry, but I just wanted to let you guys know that I'm planning on proposing some changes to the dress code, specifically in regards to marijuana paraphernalia, things like that. distraction. So I know that I dress with it. We talk about that with the advent of so many different places that have started the sale of that. I just don't think that's something we need to be letting kids wear around the school. So that's something that I'm going to pursue looking at in the future. And if I have to, I'll give some money to Amber. I'll buy $100 worth of shirts you can put in the office, and kids coming in, they can get a Union City shirt instead. But that's something that I think we should look at.
Well, this would be a perfect time to look at that because we're looking at the dress code situation in our Neola meeting, so it would be a great time to discuss that as a potential change.
When I get time, I'm going to pursue that. I'm just giving you the heads up.
Great, thank you.
If you have a major problem with that, I'll talk to you afterwards. Thank you.
I have something. I just want to actually, coming from a completely different perspective, I just want to thank the entire district, Mr. Katz and building administrators, Spencer Kiefer, all of them for helping me out this year. I took over the Bucks program this year and basically have done in 4 weeks what I should do in 4 months. So I've been putting a lot of time and effort into it, and you guys have all been very helpful with announcements, gathering sign-up forms for me. Spencer's helping out with grounds and getting me set up with things. I know we've been communicating about certain things, so I think it's a really great program, and I want to make sure it's more organized and going forward. And this is my organization year of getting that all kind of smoothed out, but it's been great working with all of you. So thank you very much for all the support and help, because be a lot harder if I didn't have it, so thank you.
I just have one thing, and it's not anything major. I just want everybody to realize what a great year this has been for, in my opinion, the school. Where we were last year at this time to now, some of the things that we all had concerns about seems to be pretty well taken care of. And I got several comments this week at the club and at lunch about what a good job you're doing, Chris. How that negotiations went, how that the school has steadied down to being at peace for a year. And I also appreciate the fact that board meetings aren't going quite as long as they did before, because I'm older and need my sleep. So all those things I want to add and just have people look back what it was like a year ago to what it is now as school ends and realize the progress this district has made. I mean, I'm amazed at the fact that we're going to start construction on the field, that we have these funds coming in, the schools are going to be improved physically and emotionally. I think Union City Schools are in a real good position right now. That's what I want to say. Thank you.
I just want to say I really enjoyed going to the band concert yesterday. That was amazing, and to see the number of people that came back as alumni band members to march in, and the way that Jeff's face just kind of went into shock and awe. That was amazing. So that was really fun to be part of. And I also had the opportunity to travel with our high school choir program down to Cedar Point. It rained when we were leaving, it rained when we came back, and it rained all day long while we were down there. But the kids did a phenomenal job. I just want to put that out there. They were confident, they were on tune, they did everything just great. And I think that Mark did a great job directing and getting the kids to where they were. Some of the areas that we were up against were schools from Philadelphia, Manhattan, or some of the other cities, Mark? DC. Yeah, DC. And we're talking big schools. None of them looked like they were our size. We had 9 kids up there, and these other group, the group after us, they had like 50. And they did great, and they came away with a good rating, and I was so proud of those kids. They worked really hard, so I just wanted to put that out there, because being a music person, that's where my heart lies. Which writer? Oh my gosh, Valraven.
I'm impressed.
Oh, this girl loves roller coasters.
That's about all I want, that one.
I will tell you, it was raining when we went on that one, and I was riding with Mark and one of the students, and when we got off, it looked like we had stepped out of a shower because we were soaked through because of the rain and the force that we were hitting it, and it felt like needles were hitting your face, but oh my gosh, it was awesome. It was good. We had a good time. So, yeah. Anything else for Board Roundtable tonight? All right, well, we are going to be going into closed session. There is not going to be anything for us to discuss after that closed session other than coming back into session in order to go into adjournment. So if you want to stay for that portion of the meeting for adjournment, you're more than welcome to. But otherwise, I would entertain a motion to go into closed session.
We'll move.
Or
Any discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the same. And that motion is carried. We will go into